to infinity and beyond.
This is me. This is how I win.
Were you rushing or were you dragging? Answer!
You're a wizard, Harry.
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you.
No, I am your father.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
And here we go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back inside the film room. Zach Owens here. Johnny Sobchak here. We are back again. It's been a week. We missed you last week. That's on us. And partially on the movie calendar for not having anything good come out. But now we're back. Johnny, how are you?
I'm doing well, Zach. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm excellent because we have a movie to talk about. We're back in the studio, the virtual studio, and I made my glorious return to the theater this week. It was the first time in 404 days that I went to a movie theater to go see In the Earth, which is what we're talking about today, as well as The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 5, the penultimate episode, and we're going to throw in a little Oscars predictions at the end since, you know, that big event is finally coming up at the end or at next week. So
can't believe
at
it.
long last.
Yeah. But no, yeah, you're right. It's a good time to be a movie fan, I think. Things are looking up. The award season is finally coming to a close, so we can start to pivot and just think forward and enjoy the movies and not have to fixate too much on anything.
We can put the discourse to the back burner for a bit.
Yeah, as much as we can. And then, you know, summer is quickly approaching. Vaccinations are doing very well, at least here in the United States. I think it was announced today that 50% of adults 18 and older have had at least one shot. So super happy with that. That's a good thing. If you haven't, you know, gotten the opportunity yet, go out and do that, of course. That way we can all get back to the movies. I mean, so far this coming week when we do see Mortal Kombat, because I'll definitely be checking that out in IMAX, I will already have been to the theater as much as I was in all of 2020. And it's, of course, you know, it's coming up onto May. So we have plenty of time to go, and there's just going to be so many more movies to come. So I just can't wait. I'm excited.
As am I. I was looking at it last night. Like, I do my goals for the year. Like at the beginning, I started doing this a couple years ago, and it's like, I can't remember the exact number. I've got it written down. Don't worry. I'm holding myself accountable. But like in a normal year, it would have been like see 75 or more movies, like new releases for that year.
Yeah.
And like as of right now, I am at 14 through almost 3.5 months now at this point.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's behind schedule if we're going to hit 75.
Yeah.
So hopefully, like you're saying, with May and with stuff really getting back in the swing of things, we can get those rookie numbers up, you know?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like, because before in a regular year, you know, I guess 2019 and previously, like on Letterboxd and whatnot, I would keep track of all the movies that I watch in a given year that were released that year, of course. So that would be everything I saw in the theater, stuff on Amazon only, stuff on Netflix only, and whatnot from streaming services. Now, because coming out of the pandemic, I'm interested to see just what I'm able to see and when. So I'm keeping track of all the stuff that I just see in theaters, and then I'll have probably something separate for all the new streaming movies. And then, of course, I mean, right now with Mortal Kombat, that'll be the 9th movie I've seen in theaters this year. So I would like to get into the theater 30, more times, 30, 40 more times before the year is up. But we'll see. It's a ways to go, but like I said, it's a good little bit of normalcy.
Definitely. So what else has been going on? I know I've got some exciting movies to talk. One that you've been begging me to watch. So before I get to that, anything other than In the Earth that you've been keeping busy with this week, or I guess over the last 2 weeks since we didn't podcast?
Yeah, it's been very slow going just because I've been incredibly busy. But I will say I did get to revisit my older brother. He was looking to watch something, and he got me some 4Ks for Christmas, so I decided to show him Unforgiven because he was really looking forward to watching that. So we did that, the 1992 Clint Eastwood Western, which is like one of my favorites, one of the best, I think. And he really liked it a lot. He hasn't seen very many Westerns, so it was kind of a little bit different from his usual kind of speed, but I think he liked it enough to where he kind of wants to go back and watch some even older Clint Eastwood Westerns. So that was fun, and it looks great, sounds great. I'm really happy with that one. So, but other than that, In the Earth was the only other thing I watched really over the last couple weeks because I have been so busy. But it was nice seeing In the Earth in the theater. Of course, was great. It was we'll talk about it later on, but it was very much a sensory experience. So having the big screen, big sound system helped.
Definitely. Well, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I rewatched Interstellar. This was probably about a month ago at this point, and that was one you'd been begging me to rewatch since I'd only seen it on an airplane screen. And that's just the exact way that Christopher Nolan wants it to be seen.
Absolutely.
So I got back into my Christopher Nolan kick with a first time viewing of The Prestige, which was mind blowing, incredible, loved it. Definitely one that, like you said, I know we were discussing it afterwards, that every subsequent viewing is going to be like more and more hints as to like this was a much better version, but just because of like the magic and the mystery and stuff, it reminded me of Now You See Me, which I also love, but like it's not a Christopher Nolan movie, but like it was the same sense of like, also Michael Caine is in both, but of like catching little tricks here and there that are like, because the movie is about tricks, so
yes,
that was the same sort of vibe there. And then I've rewatched Dunkirk for the first time since theaters, and I know you had been begging me to do that because Dunkirk is my worst Christopher Nolan movie, but I will say that I definitely liked it more this time. However, as you and Jake referred to it as God tier Nolan, I'm not in that camp quite yet. It's very mid Nolan for me.
Okay.
So better than it was.
Yeah, I can respect it.
But yeah, I think I readjusted my Christopher Nolan rankings, and I believe out of the 8 that I've seen, I haven't seen Insomnia or Memento yet, but it comes in at 5 out of 8. So
I think it's really interesting. I think it's definitely Dunkirk, all of his movies, and every movie, I think in general, at least the stuff that is actually quality to some extent, benefits from multiple viewings, but especially Nolan movies, just because they do mess with time so much and they can have twists.
I still need to get to that Tenet rewatch. I've still only seen that once.
I was going to say the same thing because my opinion has changed so much on Tenet after my first watch and revisiting it. But yeah, The Prestige is fantastic. I mean, that's top tier. I mean, his top tier has like 5 movies probably for me at least, but yeah, it's just, I think that one is funny too, because as you were talking about, it's about like tricks and, deception and like showmanship and all that kind of stuff. And I thought I've seen these it's interesting because Inception was something, a lot of people point out that movie is kind of like about the filmmaking process. Like it's a team coming together, like a production team almost. You have your director, you have your producer, all that. And I think so if that movie is about like making movies or like how you make a movie, The Prestige is about why you make movies, like what drives you as an artist to like improve and, the competitive like aspect of that, and the showmanship and the craft. So that's really, that's one of my favorites. If you haven't seen it, anyone listening, definitely go back. And in and watch it. And if you have already seen it, give it another
Rewatch it.
because I guarantee you will notice new stuff and like it'll make you appreciate it even more because it's pretty mind blowing. But I think you'll like Memento a lot too because that's another very topsy turvy movie right there. So, but Insomnia, I expect that'll be on the lower end just because it's not a typical Nolan. It's very standard. But yeah, that's a good little.
I'll have
pick,
to complete. I'll have to complete my collection there.
Yeah.
And then also last night, Universal was doing the Nobody watch along, the live Twitter watch party. So we were involved in that. And now I'm going to have to go I know I was there live for it, our podcast, but I'll have to listen to hear your thoughts again and see how I feel about it. Cause I was not as high on it as you were, but definitely action, stunts, fight choreography was all like top tier, but then like the rest of it was just kind of underwhelming for me. I'm definitely team Wick. When it comes to Hutch Mansell versus John Wick, I'm going with my boy Keanu all day.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
In both a fight and in which movie I choose to watch.
And film quality. All right.
But yeah, that's I've been the opposite of you. I've had a busy week. It was a big, I guess, busy 2 weeks of movies with the return to the theater, like you said, as well, to go see In the Earth. But there has been some TV still that we've both been keeping up with. And there's a lot to talk about considering we did not discuss episode 4 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier since we didn't pod last week. So anybody who has watched that knows the massive cliffhanger, not necessarily cliffhanger, but just massive event that episode ended on. So episode 5 picks up, it's called Truth, as John Walker faces consequences for his actions and Sam and Bucky return to the US. So those actions at the end of episode 4 are manslaughter, murder.
Yeah, so, I think you can definitely extend that to murder for sure.
Yeah, it is straight up murder. Which comes after maybe a manslaughter, an unintentional. So what goes down?
Debate that, yeah.
What goes down? Lamar, aka Battlestar, is killed in action unintentionally by Carly, and she escapes. And John Walker, out of rage, tracks down one of her cronies, a sidekick, and just beats his head in with the shield and murders him in the middle of whatever Eastern European city they're in, and the world is watching. Not a great look for Captain America. What was your reaction to I know you've been lukewarm to negative on most of the show, but the ending of episode 4, and then I know you're high on this episode as well. So it's been picking up, and I feel like you've been
crazy here, Zach.
What?
No,
you liked this episode.
Yeah.
Don't lie to me.
I did like episode 5 a good amount. Definitely, I'd say this new episode it might be the best one. I really liked the first episode a lot though, and I think the reason I did enjoy this one so much is it's the most similar to that season opener out of all of the subsequent episodes.
I believe this episode, I said it in the group chat, but it felt like 2 separate episodes almost, in the sense of like, this was the longest so far. It came in at an hour. And there was a time where like I paused it to see how much time was left, and I expected there to be like 5 minutes left, and I was only halfway through.
Oh my God.
So because it's very, very not abrupt, but very like split up in the fact that the beginning is the fallout of John Walker and the murder and what's going on like the grander scale, and then the second half is Sam and Bucky back home in Louisiana fixing up the boat. More of it, like you said, from that first episode, the like smaller character driven moments.
That's for sure. And I think, talking about episode 4, because I didn't like episode 4 as much as this one, but I didn't think it was bad necessarily. Is definitely brings on the action more in the latter half of episode 4. Of course, there's you have John Walker, and they're kind of working with Bucky, and at least there's a tenuous partnership between John Walker and Lamar, and then you have, of course, Bucky and Falcon, and they're kind of debating how is the best way to approach taking on the Flag Smashers, like talking to the leadership, because John Walker kind of just wants to bust in there and be like, "Hey, we're taking you down. Like this is over." And Falcon is convinced that he can basically talk her down, kind of get her to stop on her own accord. And it really seems like, there is something there, because there's that scene toward the end where before, everything goes bad, where basically she seems like she's coming around. And then, of course, John Walker bursts in and Falcon is like, no, like, don't, like, you're completely like messing everything up. And then it turns into this big action kind of chase sequence, where, of course, you were talking about the accidental killing, perhaps, where we have Lamar getting killed. And the interesting part of this, I think, at least in the aftermath, in the episode 5 in particular, is how John Walker's kind of basically convincing himself, it seems, that the person he killed, the guy, is the one.
He keeps trying to say that that's the one who did it, but we all know that that's not true.
Right. And so, and it's really not clear if he's just delusional or if he knows, like deep down, that that it wasn't him, but he's choosing to lie to everyone to kind of convince them that, oh, what I did was, justified. So yeah, I think that was a very interesting angle to take on it, and I appreciated that, because it did make it more murky and it adds an extra dimension to it. And Lamar, were you shocked when he got killed, or what was your reaction to that?
I mean, he had never really been. He was very obviously just there to be the sidekick.
He was not very depthful at all, right?
Right. Like, I thought there may be some path for him moving forward. Like, I wasn't like, okay, wow, this is going to be the next hero. He's going to be an Avenger. But I also didn't think he was like going to die after 4 episodes.
Agreed. Yeah. So yeah, now my reaction was very similar. Like when he got kicked and then slammed into that pillar, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's gonna get up. I mean, for a second, I was like, oh, maybe he'll just be injured, almost like
I thought it might be like a roadie type situation.
Right. Yeah, and then God, thank God it wasn't, because that would have been just pathetic, honestly, if they had done the same exact thing with the black sidekick. But they did choose to actually kill him off, and I guess that it's going to be interesting to see where John Walker's story ends with this show, knowing that there's only 1 episode left, because he's definitely in a bad spot right now. And a big part of that is what happens of course, there's the public basically execution that he does of this flag smasher fellow. But you also have the opening of episode 5 after that, where it's maybe the best action sequence. I would say probably the best action sequence of the entire show thus far. It's a very Civil War-esque 3-man fight, 2-on-1, where Bucky and Falcon, instead of Bucky and Steve Rogers from the end of Civil War taking on Iron Man, it's Falcon and Bucky taking on John Walker. And so it's very hard hitting. It's pretty brutal. There's blood. His arm gets they break his arm almost off when they rip the shield off at the end of the fight. Falcon's wings get destroyed. So there's some pretty intense stuff going on there. Some interesting consequences that they kind of add into the action, which the action's always going to be the best when you can feel that there's consequences to it and you can see the aftermath and how it's affecting people and everything. And so they get the shield back, and they take it, and then that's from there is when the rest of the episode kind of, because that's almost like the opening title sequence. Basically.
It is, yeah. The title card doesn't come on until after that fight.
Yeah, it's like 10 minutes in. So, what did you think of that fight and kind of how that kicked things off and like set the tone for this episode?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about like the stakes and stuff, and like obviously we know, like at least 99% confidence, like Falcon and the Winter Soldier are not going to die in this episode. Like, but there still felt like significant stakes, especially because it was very much like we all knew that John Walker had been like a loose cannon. That last episode he took the super soldier serum,
Yes.
and was now juiced up. And they did like a very nice job of like showing just how quickly he snapped, and that he's like, okay, I killed that one. I don't know. I assume he probably killed other people like as a soldier, but like never in that manner. And now he's like, okay, I've done it once. Like I'm ready to do it again if that's what it takes. Like out of desperation and his like state of mind when he's like, I'm ready to kill Falcon or Bucky if that's the case.
Yeah. Right. And I think there's also an interesting commentary happening there, at least I think to some extent, because of course John Walker and Captain America, the title in general, because there's been a lot of comparison to Steve Rogers, and it's unavoidable because he is the only Captain America we've had in the MCU thus far. And so there's been these viral tweets where it's like Steve Rogers is what America could be or should be, John Walker is what America is or whatever. And yeah, so I think what's going on, like at least what I've taken away, and I think this incident with John Walker kind of, it's a little murky, and I'm not sure exactly if it's intentional or not, but because Steve Rogers, I mean, he killed a ton of people. Like, let's be clear. Like, he was going around like beating the shit out of guys, throwing the shield at them, like the Winter Soldier.
It's not a Nerf shield. That thing is made of made of vibranium.
The Winter Soldier. I'm thinking in particular of like the Winter Soldier opening action sequence on that big like ship where he just takes out like all those dudes with a shield and he's like throwing them off the ship and stuff. So like we know he's been doing these, like Captain America in general is meant to be like a weapon. Like he is a superhuman like weapon that they send out into the field to do these missions. And so, but they happen like it's almost like it's supposed to be like this darker like undercurrent. And the Captain America, the title, and like what the public eye sees is, oh, like this man, like in, the guy in shining armor with the gold and the blue, or the white and the red. And it's John Walker is kind of similar because he's coming from a military like background, like he was in combat and everything. And then he's like almost brought out like a mascot when he's introduced at the end of the first episode. But he's doing these missions, like he's kind of, he's supposed to be on covert missions, and then he kind of runs out into public in the middle, and he like lets his emotions get the best of him, and he kills this guy like brutally. And it's not like John Walker's never killed someone before, like as you pointed out, like rightly. But like the fact that it's happening out there in public and it's like so violent and bloody, it's kind of, I feel like to an extent it's almost like, oh well, this is what America does all the time, but now that you're seeing it in public and everyone's recording it, now we have to say something about it. Now we have to like strip him of his title or like his rank and all that and discharge him. So I think that's
it's also the fact that it was like execution style versus like Cap, I say Cap as in Steve Rogers, who is like in the heat of battle against enemies versus like a defenseless person on the stairs.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, that I also thought it was interesting the way, like, I think you may have mentioned it already, but when he returns home and he's got like basically like a Senate hearing to be stripped of his title and stuff, that they're very casual with it. They're like, you will bring us that shield. Don't make us. But it's like, no, like you should be going to get the shield from him. Not that he even has it anyway, because Bucky and Sam took it, but the fact they're super lax about it. They're like, oh yeah, you did this because of your past service. Like, it's okay, but like, don't do it again, and you don't get like the cool job.
Yeah, no, that was definitely one of the. I mean, I think Jake mentioned it in the group chat as well. Like, there's definitely some eye rolling, like groany lines and moments in this episode. That being one of the worst ones, just because it's funny you brought that up, because as soon as that was said and he was like walking out, I was like, wait, what? Like, is this like, I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's supposed to be intentional and like almost like making some sort of comment, or if it's just bad writing. Like, it's hard to tell, honestly. But I think
But
it's interesting because after that is when we have the cameo, right?
right, they never learned anything from. Maybe they did learn something from WandaVision, because this was not
Hyped up.
they teased the cameo, but they did not tease it as much as they did for WandaVision. So
No.
they took a couple steps back, and this lived up to everything that we were promised. We were told that it was a high profile performer playing a big Marvel character who we haven't seen on screen yet.
Yeah.
And all those boxes were checked when Julia Louis-Dreyfus strolled onto the set as Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. It's a mouthful. I hope we can like shorten that to something moving forward for her.
Right. Yeah.
But this character,
Val.
she strolls, Val. She strolls in, and this disgraced former Captain America now is sitting with his wife, I guess, girlfriend. I don't even. Do we know that? Have we met her
kind
before?
of just they throw her in here, basically.
But
yeah, his partner, essentially.
Val is basically presenting herself as like, hey, I can still work with you. We can find a way to make this work. And she has a ton of information. She knows he doesn't have the shield anymore. She knows what was the other thing that she drops, that there was another like secretive piece of information.
Right. Yeah.
I think she knew that Carly, that wasn't the person who killed Lamar. I think she mentions
she does hint at that. Yeah.
But for Super, I had no idea who this person was when she strolled in. I had to do some Googling afterwards. But Contessa Valentina Allegra de la Fontaine is from the comics, of course. She's gone by many names, but one of her most significant, especially in the context of Captain America and what we know just about these stories on screen, is Madame Hydra. She transformed basically from an Italian jet-setting elite to a secret agent who is eventually revealed as a Russian sleeper agent, which is all very interesting because
a lot.
Rumor has it that this character was initially supposed to make her MCU debut in Black Widow.
Right.
Obviously with the delays, this was back in the original slate. It was supposed to be Falcon and the Winter Soldier on TV before Black Widow. Anyways, I believe I'm 99% sure that was it before everything got shuffled, because this was supposed to come out before WandaVision. But who knows? They definitely have had the opportunity to make different cuts of Black Widow in this time if they wanted to. So maybe she'll be in it, but not introduced as like explicitly as she was here, since we have now seen her. Maybe she won't even be in it at all anymore. But yeah. Russian sleeper agent, Black Widow, seems pretty connect the dots there. That would be a logical place for us to see her again. And that there have, from everything that I've read, it sounds like this is not like a one-off little Julia Louis-Dreyfus, like come make a fun cameo and then leave. Like this is a, hey, we're moving forward with you.
Setting it up. She
could be, some of the stuff I read was basically saying she's like the anti-Nick Fury, and that she's going to be helping recruit the dark side of the Avengers, whether it's with John Walker, whether it's
Zemo,
with Zemo, with Yelena, Florence Pugh's character, potentially in Black Widow. Like who knows?
You think she'd be bad though?
That's what one of the things I read. Like I don't know. I have seen that both ways now. I had never seen her being bad before until just now reading about this, but from what I'd seen previously, they thought she would come and be the new Black Widow on the good guys side.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But we'll see. I love Julia Louis-Dreyfus, huge Veep fan. She obviously she's still like very comical in this, but a very different role than a babbling president.
What was your reaction when you saw who it was?
It was like it was just like okay. Like no, I had zero reason like whatsoever to think when they said that there's going to be a cameo.
There's going to be
it's going to be Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I got a feeling now.
Yeah. Like no, it was good.
It's a very interesting pick, not someone who I would have, like, if we were fan casting something for the MCU, I would not have made that match at all. But like because I'm such a big fan of her, and like she can do the drama, she can do comedy. We'll see about the action. I assume she'll have to do something in a Marvel movie that's action packed, but very intriguing and promising pick, I would say.
Right. And speaking of Zemo, because we were mentioning like the Thunderbolts situation that's going on, he's been written out now. He's out of the show. He is being given, because there's a showdown, I guess, between Bucky and Zemo in Sokovia, where Zemo is visiting the memorial that he asked Bucky about earlier on in the show, if he had gone to visit it yet, and he said no, and he's like, "Oh, of course you haven't." But he's there, and Bucky.
But
does
also,
show
like
up.
Falcon and Bucky were not there for that event, so why would I questioned that earlier?
Right?
They
Yeah,
were
yeah,
not
yeah.
around in Ultron.
Right. That's a good point. I'm sure the writers didn't consider that when they were writing it. But so there's this showdown between Bucky and Zemo, and it seems like Bucky is literally about to just blow Zemo's fucking head off with this gun. And I didn't. Was there any part of you that thought that he was actually going to do it or go through with that? Or how did you
No,
see that
I didn't
situation
think.
resolving itself?
Yeah, I didn't think that he would, but there was still like, because it cuts away and like he's got the gun held up, and I was like waiting to hear the bang. Like they
Right.
had it positioned perfectly where like
You wouldn't see
most
it.
right, most shows, unless you're like a nobody or a John Wick, they're not going to show the dude's head explode.
Yeah.
Especially like I didn't expect that from a Marvel, so they had it set up in the perfect way to just hear the gunshot and it happens. And I was like, I didn't think he would, but there was still like it was still a possibility. But then obviously the real thing that happens is calling in the Wakandans, and he's going to Wakanda to get his due. That he's gonna work all for the rest of his life and not have any sort of peace that maybe a quick death at the hands of Bucky could give him.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, well, that's okay. So I didn't like this part, and I'll say why. The Wakandans obviously have extreme beef with Zemo because he killed their king, T'Chaka. And so they wanted to kill him. Like they've been intending to murder this guy. Like they're not making any deals. They're not taking him prisoner. Like they were going to fucking kill him. And so that's been the set idea all along. And we also know the Wakandans, while they have been opening up their country, and that was what Black Panther, that film, what it ended on was them kind of opening more international relations and things like that and trying to build relationships more than what they had been doing. I don't see the Wakandan like Dora Milaje being sent out like errand women to pick up Zemo, and instead of killing him or even taking him prisoner, taking him back to Wakanda, like they, attempted to do with Andy Serkis's character Claw in Black Panther. They're taking him to the Raft, the United States run prison facility out in the middle of the ocean. They're going to take him there and leave him there instead of doing what they wanted to do and have been saying all along. I just didn't buy that at all. And it felt like
I didn't even catch that. I didn't know that they said that.
It felt like a complete 180. And I didn't really get why they were.
Okay, I must have missed that. So I'm with you there. That is confusing.
Yeah, I think it was mentioned. I can't remember who said it. They're like, oh, he's going to the Raft to live out the rest of his. Oh, it's when Bucky's talking to I can't remember the name of her character. The
Ayo, that's the actress.
Yeah, she they're talking as he's being taken away, I think, and they're having the discussion, and that's when Bucky says, "Oh, can you do me one more favor regarding Falcon's wings?"
Right.
It's during that discussion where one of them says, "Oh, he's being taken to the Raft to
Gotcha.
live out the rest of his days or something." And of course, that's very clearly setting up the reason that they're writing it that way. Of course, I'm sure is because they're setting up the Thunderbolts, and you can't have Zemo go and be a bad Avenger somewhere doing something if he's killed or brought to Wakanda. So
you never know, according to Spider-Man No Way Home, but more on that later.
Right. But finally we have for this episode at least the kind of
this is where the split happens for me. This is where the first episode 5.1 is ending, and now we're on 5.2.
But as we have Sam and Bucky coming home, you were mentioning earlier, there's kind of this fun montage where they're fixing up the boat. Bucky's like getting more comfortable in the community down there in Louisiana. helping out and talking to Sam's sister Sarah, and there's kind of like a joke that, hey man, don't try to hit on her or like date her or anything, because
Classic.
Bucky was dating people earlier on in the show. And so yeah, classic. Yeah, so that's going on. And on top of that, though, outside of Louisiana, we have Sam going back to visit Isaiah Bradley. And this is like, I mean, this is the best part of the whole episode to me, I thought. And one of the best parts of the entire show. And again, this is going to make me bring up a qualm that I have and just, leaving me asking questions, but kind of break down exactly like what happens and what the gist of that is. Because I would assume we might see Isaiah Bradley more beyond this episode, but it almost felt like this was kind of a close of his story in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was very much teased at the beginning, and like you said, this is kind of wrapping it back around, learning what we didn't know about the rest of him and his backstory.
Right.
But basically, he just kind of talks more about how he received the serum, how the other people he was with also received some variations of it back in the Korean War, or was it?
Yeah, Korean War.
I believe, yeah, that they were basically being experimented on as weapons, and that some of his men were just going to be left to die and actually get killed in a strike by the U.S. government. And he disobeyed commands, went and saved them, brought them back, but then gets punished for it and experimented on. And then just like that kind of built up the hatred. Similar, like obviously this is much less like tactful than the Five Bloods, but like a very similar like vein and just like experience of these people out here, Black veterans that are like, whether you're a regular soldier or a super soldier, like still out here risking your life and saving people, but then not getting the proper credit that you deserve or just even treatment when you return home.
Right. And another thing that there was a mirror kind of going on there with that story. I don't know if you picked up on it or not, but the story he describes is like almost identical to the one from the first Avenger, where Cap leaves against their orders and goes to rescue his men instead of, leaving them to die. And then he brings them back. And instead of being welcomed back like a hero and kind of getting off with a slap on the wrist, which is what Steve Rogers got essentially. Of course, there's a story about him, going to prison and all that. So it was just a very dark, very felt like a very honest moment in the show, like for that the angle they were taking, like the commentary they were trying to offer on that. Because while I liked what we saw from him earlier in the series, I think that this really like hit it more home, because at that point also it wasn't really clear where they were going with it or where the show was going.
Right.
And I said this in the group chat, and I'll just say it again because it is like pretty much how I feel at this point, even though I have been enjoying the show a little bit more, is I really feel like Falcon could have gotten his own show, or like Bucky could have gotten his own show. And I understand why they put these two characters together, because I mean they're both sidekicks to Steve Rogers. They're both have that history and kind of tie that in, and then of course there's them, what they had together in Civil War and the Winter Soldier. But I don't know. It's just like this has been that more. It's been very much in the same vein of Civil War. It's like this globetrotting action spy adventure story with some political overtones. But in the same respect, I feel like it's been kind of half baked in some parts, and especially just trying to divide up what is being told for Bucky as his story, what is being told for like Sam as his story. And like, I thought it was being set up so well for success in that first episode, and like why it was still like my favorite or the best episode to me up to this point. And I feel, this bit with Isaiah Bradley was just so powerful, and like I felt so well done. You could have had a Falcon show, do the episode one that we got with Sam going to Louisiana, and we get introduced to his sister, and then shortly thereafter we meet Isaiah Bradley. That could have been expanded on and made its own 5 or 6 episode show, and tell a whole story just about Falcon and about where his place is as the new supposed potential Captain America. And you could still include John Walker in that even, because you do have that parallel of the new versus old Captain America, and a white man as Captain America versus a black man, and how he's getting kind of shafted, it just, I feel like there's just a huge missed opportunity. And the show is still like fine for what it is in most respects, but like, I don't know, it just feels a lot of mostly more of the same, where I think they could have gone and taken a bigger jump and like a bolder like take on it, especially because it is Disney Plus and people are going to pay and watch no matter what. It just feels very safe by comparison, and maybe a little bit sloppier, like less inspired.
I'm with you on all that. I can understand that and then agree with it, but I still also have liked this more than you have, and been not as not that you're like upset about it, but just like I've been more content with what the product has been.
Right. But where's the episode leave us at going into?
Yeah, the last. Well, first there's two big things. One, the status of the Flag Smashers as they are basically launching their attack on what's the GRC,
I believe, yeah,
it's
in New York, I guess.
The headquarters, the government agency that's displacing the people from the blip, or who I guess moved during the blip. So they launch an attack to basically send a big message, taking them out in the middle of their meeting with different senators and government leaders and whatnot. So someone's going to have to clean that up in this finale, and it's probably going to be Sam and his shiny new wings, because as you mentioned off the top, his wings got ripped in half by John Walker. And while they're at home, Sam finally, after talking with Bucky, realizes that I have to be the one. Sam kind of feels like John Walker did this and it's all because of me for not keeping the shield. Right. And he kind of comes to grips with that. Bucky helps him out by saying like, yeah, I was giving you a hard time. I'm sorry for that. It's not your fault that this happened. And as he kind of comes into that, he is able to also come into being Captain America on his own. He has his training montage, which is kind of an eye roll of him doing push-ups and sit-ups and running and
feels
practicing
like Rocky
with the shield. Yes, very much a Rocky episode.
Yeah.
And then he's got the shield down pat, but now he's missing his old Falcon suit that was ripped up. And Bucky has delivered the gift from the Wakandans, which we assume because he asked them for the favor, and then he comes with this shiny box, and then he opens it, and I 100% guarantee that this is going to be a Falcon suit, but it's red, white, and blue. So he's Cap and the Falcon probably at the same time.
Yeah, and then the wings will be like vibranium.
Yep, so John Walker can't rip him in half again. But speaking of John Walker, did you catch the post-credits scene?
I didn't actually see it because I did forget, but I read and heard what it was about.
Right, I didn't watch it the first time, and then I remembered hearing that there was one. So then like this morning I got up and turned it on and watched the little bit. But it's basically it's cool because it's like an homage to Iron Man and the end of Endgame, because you hear like the same, it's black and you hear the hammer banging on metal, and it sounds like how they ended Endgame and how Iron Man was building his suit. But it's John Walker and he's building his own Captain America shield, and sort of it looked like incorporating like his medals almost from like different army service.
Sounds horrible.
But yeah, and he's like spray painting it to make it look like the Captain America shield, but like God. I don't know what he's making.
He's gonna throw that shit and it's gonna fall apart in midair.
I don't know. Like it looked like the shield had like a chunk missing out of it, and I was like, did he get the one that was broken after Thanos attacked like Captain America? Because you know how it gets like beaten. I was like, are we supposed to just assume he got that from somewhere, or like is this something else? Like I'm curious if he has access to vibranium.
Well, that's a curious thing that I hadn't really considered or thought about too much, but the shield that Cap brought back and gave to when he left on the mission at the end of Endgame through the
he had a full shield.
He had a full shield. So they must have repaired it, right?
I guess. I don't know, because like I said, that one basically gets like cut in half.
So I guess they would have repaired it most likely.
I guess. I don't know.
It's really the only explanation. So it's the same original shield, and he carried it through time and everything, and then he brought it back and gave it to him.
I guess so.
All right. Hey,
Well,
maybe.
I guess we'll probably figure out next week what that shield is up to.
Looks like,
in this finale episode. I'm interested to see. WandaVision was getting longer and longer as the episodes went on. This one was the first one that was like not 45 to 50 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see. As we know, this is just 6 episodes versus a 9-episode arc. So we'll see. We'll see how it all wraps up. I feel like there's a lot that has to be wrapped up, but also
once again, yeah,
most of these characters are going to be moving forward into more Marvel properties.
Right. Yeah. So let's. I'm curious to see how it. I hope it's a good ending. But let's. Shall we move on to our
from
news?
a Marvel show to some Marvel news? Let's get started.
Absolutely. Yeah. So some crazy, curious, questionable details were let out by Alfred Molina to Variety, talking about Doc Ock and basically saying, yeah, I'm in Spider-Man No Way Home, which was reported and it was kind of rumored, but this is direct confirmation. I mean, it's from the horse's mouth. And
Tom Holland is just celebrating that he's not the one who messed up. If this was a mess up.
Yeah, exactly. So there's some great memes that came out of this talking about Kevin Feige, like ready to kill Alfred Molina. But yeah, so I guess he was kind of like hesitant about it. He's like, hey man, like I died at the end of Spider-Man 2. Made that big sacrifice, changed my ways, made a redemption. And John Watts basically told him, hey, no one ever really dies in this universe. So we're bringing you back.
Multiverse, baby.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of trepidation I've seen online because he did have a great character arc and he had that redemption at the end and he died a hero. And so now they're digging him back up and throwing him into this movie. So it's I think they have to ride a very careful line about what they do with this character because I mean, Spider-Man 2 will always be there, and that's not going to change, but I'm very curious to see how he's implemented in this. And then, of course, also with MCU on discussion and talking about production and everything, Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness wrapped filming in London, and Black Panther 2 is set to begin production in Atlanta in July. So, yeah, got some exciting stuff on the way, and more movies coming out this year, of course, other than Spider-Man No Way Home with Black Widow and Shang-Chi and the Eternals.
Still haven't seen a single thing from Shang-Chi. We'll see.
Or Eternals, really.
We at least got we know that that's
concept
a thing, and we've seen the poster and the concept art and stuff. But yeah, we'll see if Shang-Chi exists, if it's real.
It's got to be. And speaking of franchises. We might as well.
The franchise king.
Mads Mikkelsen. We had a great meme devised by Zach here that did some decent numbers over on Twitter. You should go check that out if you haven't seen it already. But he is joining Phoebe Waller-Bridge in Indiana Jones 5. They're going to be co-starring with Harrison Ford. No details as to what the characters are or what their involvement in the story is. What do you think of these two joining? And what would you like to see their characters be like? And there's been obviously a lot of speculation that Mads will, of course, be playing a villain again because he has played villains in the past. And then Phoebe Waller-Bridge, there's been some speculation that she'll be potentially maybe a granddaughter or a daughter to Indiana Jones. But that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what her role will be, but I'm here for anything Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Yeah, she's definitely incredible.
Great seen.
Yes, exactly. She, from Fleabag to the voice of K2SO and that was sorry, not K2.
Solo.
In Solo, I can't remember. K2 was the one from Rogue One.
Rogue One, yeah.
That was Alan Tudyk.
But Mads Mikkelsen was in Rogue One, so that probably
exactly. So they've got a Star Wars story connection there. But yeah, and then she's also, of course, one of the writers of No Time to Die. So she's just incredibly talented across the board. So I could see her very much being. I don't know if I want her to be a Jones relative, but instead just like a collaborator, a fellow
another scientist,
archaeologist or something. Yeah. To go along with on the adventure.
That'd be dope.
Or what if they're like completely flipping the script? Mads is the sidekick and Phoebe's the villain. That would be wild.
Love that. I mean, I could really. That's the thing.
She could be very
two.
Diabolical.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with these two is they're both so good and so talented and very likable as people and as performers that I can really get behind whatever they want to do with them. I think that's the great part. Honestly, I think while Mads is a fantastic villain, I feel like he's almost like getting a little typecast at this point. So
exactly, that was the whole.
I would like to see him play something different, but
right. You mentioned the meme, and like the whole premise of that is that first of all, just that he's in all franchises, but more specifically within those franchises, Harry Potter, he's going to be taking over in the Fantastic Beasts movie as Grindelwald. So that's a bad guy. Was the bad guy in Doctor Strange, bad guy in Casino Royale.
Yeah. So
ultimately a good guy in Star Wars, but presented as a bad guy who came up with the Death Star.
Yeah.
So obviously Hannibal Lecter as well in the TV show Hannibal.
Yeah.
So he's just like a go-to villain, and I feel like it would be all too easy. It would be easy and what you're expecting, but also like still incredibly good if he is the bad guy in this movie.
Yeah, no, totally agree. So I was already, they had my curiosity with this movie because James Mangold's a fantastic director, and I do love Harrison Ford, even though he's going to be 80 years old playing Indiana Jones. They have my
We'll see how it works.
They have my attention with these two bits of casting. So that's exciting. I'm sure they're going to be filming probably this summer because it is supposed to be coming out next July. We have some other news here, some quicker hitters. But basically, Lord of the Rings, the series everyone's been looking forward to over at Amazon.
Drop a bag.
Yeah, Amazon Studios is going to be making that series, which is going to be set prior to the original film trilogy. And it sounds like this first season is going to cost approximately $500 million, making it the most expensive show of all time. The figure that we're hearing is $465 million. And that's in comparison to HBO's Game of Thrones, which costs roughly, especially towards the end of the show, $100 million per season. So we're talking about several $100 million less than the most expensive Game of Thrones seasons. It has been pointed out, and it is true that this first season is most likely going to cost a lot more than the next couple seasons potentially, or seasons down the line if the show is a success, because the startup money and the cost that it takes to make costumes and props and sets that will be reused and not have to be paid for again moving forward. But hey, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, a lot bigger than Zach. I'm very excited for this. If it can be anything sort of like, I enjoyed the movie, Game of Thrones, good enough. If this can be anything sort of like in the same vein of Game of Thrones, and then I'm all for this. Spend as much money as it takes to get something of that magnitude. Amazon, they got the money. Regardless of what you think of them as a company, they have money. There's no doubt. So let's hope the show is good. Let's hope it's worth it. Speaking of shows from prestige production companies, we have Gabriel Luna.
You could have gone two ways here. You've got this one, or you could have gone the Game of Thrones into the next segue.
That's true. That's true. But we have another show that is getting in gear. It's going to be filming this summer, and that is The Last of Us from HBO, which is my most anticipated show out of all these right now because I'm a huge fan of the games. Gabriel Luna is joining the cast as Tommy, the younger brother of Pedro Pascal's Joel. So, of course, Joel was cast. This is probably a couple months ago now. But that was kind of like a holy shit kind of moment as Joel. And of course, Joel and Tommy in the games are white. And Pedro Pascal is, of course, not a white dude. So they, of course, had to bring in another, Latino actor for his brother. And so Gabriel Luna is the man of choice. Now, he's been in a couple other notable things, mainly Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I know he played Ghost Rider, which was pretty cool. And then, of course, he was also the villain in Terminator Dark Fate. So this seems like a pretty big upgrade for him. This is probably going to be the best thing he's ever been a part of, at least on the TV side of things. So I think that's a great choice. He looks the part. He's, the age difference and everything. So spot on. I'm excited about it.
No comment.
Is
I don't know anything about The Last of Us or
Yeah.
Gabriel Luna, so I'm just
Yeah,
gonna sit
it's
this
funny.
one out.
Yeah, it's funny because before this, my choice was for Tommy was Diego Luna.
I was actually just Googling to see if they were related.
Who is another, of course, huge actor in television and on film. So this is a great choice regardless. And we're talking about HBO, talking about Game of Thrones. Aquaman 2 is another big project that should be going to production over the summer, and they have added the first new cast member for the sequel, and it's going to be a butchering of the name, but I will deliver it to you regardless. And that's Pilo Asbake.
I don't think it's ass bake, but I don't know how to. This is actually a fun fact.
I think it's Asbake.
That's unfortunate.
Ass Baker.
I'll have to ask my brother because, as I know, I've told you, when he got to go to the Game of Thrones final season premiere,
yeah.
he actually hung out with Pilo, and
oh wow,
they chatted up for quite some time because apparently Drew has watched. I guess he's Danish, maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
So he's they have this big Danish series that he stars in, and my brother was an underground big American fan of that show, so they had that in common and talked about it. But I'll have to get the official pronunciation from them.
Ace back for now. How about that?
Okay, I'm down with that.
Pilo. Yeah. What's the first name?
Pilo. I believe.
Okay, Pilo. So Pilo played, notably in Game of Thrones. He was
Euron Greyjoy.
A pathetic butchering of the character from the novels.
He was great for 2 or 3 episodes, and then he just peaced out.
He was written to be a horny teenager with an eye patch, or actually, he didn't even have the damn eye patch in the show. Regardless, this guy got shafted pretty badly on Game of Thrones. It sounds like he's a great actor. So I'm excited. I think, he was like a swashbuckling dude in that show. He comes over to Aquaman, makes sense. So I don't know who he could be playing. I really don't know. I would assume it will be some sort of, I'm going to say he's probably going to be playing a human character. But it is possible he might be playing an Atlantean or some other species. So, but I think that's a solid addition. And there's, of course, that Game of Thrones connection with Jason Momoa, even though they didn't have any scenes or episodes together. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. I hope.
Yeah, I mean, he was very.
What else they add.
He was very good at being the unhinged, terrifying, I don't care about my own safety kind of maniac.
Yeah.
So hopefully he's coming over to play some sort of villain because he was so good at that. I'd be interested to see if he is a good guy. That'd be a huge twist, I feel like. But I don't know any Aquaman characters enough. You're the more of the DC guy to know if there is any speculation as a fan cast or something.
Yeah, so there is. The one thing that I've seen is there is a organization that's kind of based around Aquaman called NEMO, which stands for Nautical Enforcement of Macrocosmic Order. And it is the secret society that wants to basically control the world. Okay, that's a very basic premise. And that's by controlling the ocean. So this brings them into conflict with Aquaman, of course. And there is the main guy, there's a captain that runs it. And I think that would be who he would play if it is going to be that. I think it's the Fisher King or something like that, but I could see that. But it's to be determined. We'll see what ends up happening with that. But last bit of news, as far as casting, we have with the Oscars coming up, The Father has been a huge success, getting a tons of nominations and awards. And Florian Zeller, who adapted that from his own stage play, he wrote it and directed it, is his next project, The Son, which is another stage play adaptation, set up. And that is going to be starring Hugh Jackman and Laura Dern. So, hey, I'm a huge fan of both of them. They're both high caliber actors. I mean, They might not be Anthony Hopkins, but they're both pretty damn good. And this play is focused on Peter, which is played by Hugh Jackman, and his busy life with new partner Emma and their baby. And that life is thrown into disarray when his ex-wife Kate, played by Laura Dern, turns up with their teenage son Nicholas, who's apparently very troubled and angry and skipping school and a bunch of other things like that. And so Peter wants to become a better father and kind of make a connection with his son. But apparently it sounds like it goes pretty badly, pretty dark. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'm excited for sure.
Yeah, I have not. Unfortunately, I'm hoping to do it this week, but I haven't seen The Father yet. That's my last one.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
you remember I missed the screening window.
Right.
I thought it expired. Like it had a date listed and it was like expires on this date, but I thought it was like you had that day to watch it. So
damn,
my plans were all just thrown away, and then I haven't dropped $20 yet to rent it.
Yeah,
but this week I will plan to do that ahead of the Oscars on Sunday. But I'm in. This is not like I know it's called The Father and now this one's The Son. This is not a sequel, right? Is the next one the Holy Spirit?
Yeah, no, it's completely separate. I think that he has another play called The Mother. So of course these are all very family like driven oriented. But yeah, I think that's we've heard all the Holy Ghost spirit jokes already, guys. Thank you.
Was it? I thought that was being funny. I hadn't really been in on this news, but that was not.
You really thought?
I didn't realize that was basic.
Joke yet, huh? You thought you were the first in the world, Zach.
Well, I was gonna say, is the next one The Mother, but then the Holy Spirit hit me. It came into me and told me to tell that joke instead.
All right, I'll respect it. I can allow it.
Well, a couple trailers before we go into our review today. Two very crazy trailers. We don't have to spend too much time on them, especially because I know that you're not crazy about one of these franchises, which is Fast and the Furious. We got a new trailer for F9. It's coming out soon after being delayed a year plus. And what they've been talking about for the longest time seems to actually be happening. There is a rocket ship. It looks like Ludacris is going to space. Beyond that, not much to take away here. I will make this promise. I'm going to watch 1 through 8 ahead of this movie coming out. I'm going to do it. I've been saying I'm going to, but I will do it before this because it's a huge franchise. I always talk about a turn your brain off movie and being a fan of those. So I'm ready. I'm committing.
No comment.
Johnny, I challenge you to join me.
No comment.
All right, what about a comment on Army of the Dead from your boy Zack Snyder, coming to Netflix in May and limited theaters. Zombie apocalypse movie. I know Jake says he loved this trailer. I thought it was pretty good. You're a little lukewarm on it. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, I thought it was just good, I guess. I mean, it plays better. I said that when I had not listened to it yet. I just saw the footage really. But it does play better with that great bit of Johnny Cash in there. And I thought, you know what? It was solid. It looks fun. I mean, it looks exactly what you would expect, I suppose. But did you have anything like stick out to you that really shocked you, or that was more like exciting than what you were expecting from this?
Not necessarily. More so just the premise, I guess, that I thought this was going to be a Zombieland, World War Z, but instead it's very much that the zombies have been contained to one specific area where they had been running rabid. It seems like the world has recovered, and then now they're just contained here, and we have to go into this area to do whatever the goal is.
Yeah, it's kind
of that was an interesting twist for me. But other than that, like, I'll definitely watch it. I'm excited to see Dave Bautista.
I'd like to see it in a theater if I can. I mean, honestly, it seems like
I'm curious to see how that's going to work out, because it's probably, as a Netflix movie, it's going to be like limited. So I would imagine probably
maybe
just
Durham or Raleigh would get it.
I was thinking just New York and LA. I don't even know if it's going to be.
I saw The
like
Irishman in a theater up in Durham, so it's possible. I don't know. Real quick, I do have to say I need to correct myself. I said Johnny Cash, but it's Kenny Rogers is the gambler.
Yeah, know when to hold him, know when to fold him.
Yeah. So
know when to walk away, know when to run.
That very fitting.
You
lyric.
never count your chips when you count your money when you're sitting at the table. There was some reference to like of what was happening in the movie to those lyrics. I don't remember the exact, but
hey,
they were counting their money from like the job that they were doing before they made it out from the zombies. I believe.
Yeah.
It was very on brand.
If there's one thing Zack Snyder's gonna do, it's gonna put in a pop song that matches exactly what the hell you're seeing on screen with absolutely no subtext at all.
That's your boy. That's your man.
Moving on.
Moving on to our review.
Oh, brother.
In the Earth. I don't need your judgment here. I don't need you to boo my jokes.
He told me his story. These are his memories. Can you feel him now? In the Earth?
No, I don't know what you mean.
I think you do.
So what are you working on?
Researching ways of making crops more efficient.
Funny place to study crops in a forest.
We had to send a rescue party in to get a group out a couple of months ago. They got lost.
Why didn't they use GPRS?
There's no phone reception in there. People get a bit funny in the woods sometimes.
You worried she's gonna get you?
Yeah, who is it?
It's a local folk tale. She's the spirit of the woods. Wake up. Something's there. Listen. Someone's watching us.
Time for our review. In the Earth, the latest from Ben Wheatley, who just last year was on our screens. I did not watch it, but he was on our screens with Rebecca on Netflix. Very different vibe here. I know that was still sort of like gothic romance, a little horror, but this is very much thriller. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say horror. Very unnerving.
Yeah.
But
thriller in it.
Yeah, I went into this completely blind. I knew that it was scary and I knew that it was supposed to be good. And I did not watch the trailer. I was going to the movies because my 2 weeks after my second shot had ended and I was ready and I didn't care what was on TV or what was on the screen. I was going.
Right.
So I went into this as blind as possible. And I honestly think that was probably a good thing because I still have yet to like go back and watch the trailer now after seeing it. But just from what I had gathered, I guess from maybe what I had heard or seen, not intentionally, like I thought this was going to be like much more like traditional horror versus what it ended up being of like super artsy experimental. And I think that if I had had higher expectations of that, I would have been more let down with what I got. But instead, since I didn't know anything about it, I was content with what I got.
That's fair. Yeah, I definitely feel that. But yeah. Let's
give the rundown here before we get into the review. I'll lay the groundwork. Like I said, from director Ben Wheatley, starring Joel Fry, Reese Shearsmith, Haley Squires, Elora Torchia. Did you know? I knew Joel Fry from Game of Thrones, and then he was also the little sidekick in the Beatles movie. He was in Astapor when Danny... He like, or he goes to Marine with Daenerys, and he's like the local when they're like kill the masters. That whole thing is going on. He was one of those people, and then he was the sidekick for Himesh Patel in the movie Yesterday, the Beatles movie. So I knew him from that, but I didn't know any of the other actors from anywhere really. It was very
Elora Torchia. You know her from Midsommar.
Oh yeah, she's the one. Okay, I didn't put that together. She needs to start picking roles where she doesn't get like brutalized or terrified or something.
She is fantastic though. I like her a lot.
She is very good.
Stuff. But yeah, so it's a very small cast, and it should be noted because you're giving the rundown here real quick. This was made like during the pandemic.
It was written very early, first couple weeks of the pandemic, and then so that's when the whole underlying premise of like there's a virus around the world. Like some of the sets that they used are like images of in London, like the signs for COVID, but obviously it doesn't say like COVID, but it's just about like vaccine awareness and distance and everything. So
exactly
a complete opposite of this is a much less like exploitative version of Songbird or Locked Down, those other like very on the nose pandemic thrillers. But instead we've got the world searching for a cure to a disastrous virus. Okay. A scientist and a park scout venture deep.
Whoa. This plot is my job, bro.
Oh, excuse me. I didn't turn on the narrator voice. That's you. Let me give the Rotten Tomatoes before we do it. 75% critic score, 31% audience score.
Ooh.
Big. I'm not surprised by that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not. As I told you, I don't remember if we were recording yet or not. During my theater or in my theater, there were groups of people just like having a good old time in the back, not paying attention because I'm not surprised. This movie was very artsy, very like experimental, like not straightforward, like a horror movie. So it is what it is. Johnny, what is your score here?
Give it a 65 out of 100. I thought it was good.
62 out of 100 for myself. I'm with you. I enjoyed it more. I guess I don't know what I was expecting to enjoy, but I thought it was good. I can appreciate all of the stuff that it was trying to do with like I keep saying artsy and experimental, but I wish it had been more traditional horror, but I still liked what it did. Turn it on, give us the narration. What's the movie about?
Well, I'm going to break out my dramatic British voice for this.
Oh, God.
As the world searches for a cure to a disaster.
Our listeners are turning their podcast off.
A scientist and Pox Scout ventured deep in the forest for a routine equipment run. Through the night, their journey becomes a terrifying voyage through the heart of darkness, the forest coming to life around them.
Wow.
Hey.
You should do the rest of the podcast in that voice.
I did. If I wasn't afraid of us losing subs, I would.
All right. That's a pretty good rundown.
That's exactly what it is.
I don't know if we really ever figure out necessarily what happens. No. So it's very vague, but like that's intentional.
Yeah.
I don't know. What was your experience with this movie? Did you have the same going in blind, or were you looking forward to this? Did you know what it was going to be? How did you approach it?
Right. Yeah. So the first I heard of this, I had no idea that this was getting even made, I guess, last year, but I heard it was at Sundance. And so I was like, okay, Ben Wheatley. Like I appreciated Free Fire. That's really the only film I've seen by him, which came out a few years ago at this point. And I was like, okay, a horror movie, something in the woods. So I'm getting like some Blair Witch kind of vibes from it, getting some kind of maybe Midsommar vibes from it with all the kind of
flowery dressing,
like folksy type stuff. Because there's like drawings and illustrations and then like whisperings and all that. So okay, I'm interested in that. And then I saw the trailer because Neon picked it up and then they started promoting it right away, and now it's coming out. And I did see the trailer, I think, and it definitely gave me like, actually I might have even seen it in theaters when I saw Nobody, so I couldn't avoid it. But it seemed great. Like I thought the trailer was pretty good. Definitely set the tone and everything. But I don't think that even then, and even your comments that I saw beforehand, really attuned me to what I was getting into. Because you made some comparisons, and I'd say there's definitely some DNA from Midsommar in here. There's definitely some DNA from Annihilation in here. And
10 Cloverfield Lane. That was the other one that I said.
Which I had no idea what you meant when you said that. And then something happens during the movie, and I'm like, okay, that's exactly what's happening. And I thought that was fine. And again, I don't think this is as good as any of those.
Agreed.
Not by a long shot, really. But it is its own thing, and I think it does some pretty cool, interesting and as Zach has said, artsy and more experimental things, especially with the sound and editing. It could have been more typical, but honestly, maybe I would take this more experimental, less overall quality, or maybe a scary movie compared to a more traditional like scary.
I mean, yeah, like I would pick this over like $9 million Blumhouse,
yeah,
like
exactly.
horror slasher,
right?
But like,
yeah,
but I would wish that there had been more of like Midsummer or Hereditary, like a real like really good horror movie. Because for this,
I agree. Yeah,
I feel like I hesitate to call this horror because it was more like tense and like unnerving. That there was maybe like one instance where I was like scared, instead of like
okay, what instance was that? I got to hear now.
It was when I guess they do it so many times, but like when they're going to the rock in the woods, and it was just like we knew that Zach was going to show back up at some point.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was when I don't even remember their names, but when Joel Fry's character was like going to sit at the base of it, or
right.
Someone was walking to that, and I knew it was going to be bad news. So I was just kind of like knowing that something's coming and like waiting and like the anticipation, because I thought they would do like a jump scare. But for the most part, this is very much just like, I guess, similar to like Midsummer. Midsummer does that as well, where it's like, it's disturbing, and that's definitely way more disturbing than this, but it's not necessarily like terrifying and like jump scares and horror in that sense.
Right. No, that's pretty much spot on. Yeah, I was never scared during any of this. It was definitely more of like a tense, like anxiety.
And there's also like a what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. But no, that was definitely like, squeezing my armrests as some of the Zach stuff was going on, especially.
Not me. The character, the crazy man, is named Zach.
Yes, correct.
Just to clarify for the losers, or the listeners, not the losers. Why did I say losers?
Oh, there's a Freudian slip there.
Oh God, I promise I love.
We're gonna be hemorrhaging subs by the end of this.
Between your accent and my slip.
Yeah. So there is one sequence though, especially with when they first meet him, and then they become. This is spoilers now, so. They meet him, and then of course the 10 in Cloverfield Lane element is that they are basically held captive by him, even though he pretends to be like a rescuer, like a helper at first. And their escape scene is just, oh man, like it was like I was genuinely invested, genuinely on the edge of my seat. Really well done. There's also a hilarious, this is one of the funniest movies I've seen all year so far, mind you, I gotta say. There's a lot of dark humor in it.
When he's just chopping off toes.
Yes. Okay. So there's this running gag with this guy's foot where like it's continuously like injured and more injured, and he's like losing more parts of it. And it's just like, it's so like absurd. Like there's an absurdist bit of humor in this movie that really works, I thought. It's similar to Free Fire for anyone who's seen that movie, especially because it is with regards to violence. Yeah, no, I just thought that was great. And there's also, I mean, I laughed out loud several times during this. The first real big laugh that it got out of me, and I don't know if you'll remember or not, but it's when they're camping on the very first night, and he asks like, "Oh, what's that sound?" And she's talking about, "Oh, some birds." And it's like this it's this ghastly, this ghastly like screaming, screeching noise. And it's like pitch black, like they're in the woods. And he gets into his tent and they're going to sleep. And he's like laying there, and the camera's like very tight, like on his face, and his eyes are wide open. And all you hear is like this horrible, like screeching sound out in the woods. And then it cuts to black, and then it cuts to the next morning. So that was hilarious. I just thought the editing was pretty good, because it does have that disorienting effect when it needs to, but it also works for some of like the jokes and like some of the humor and more tense bits as well.
What did you think of like I don't even know what you would call it, but we see it frequently, I guess, in different I don't even it's very random when it pops up. I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. The whole like quick cuts, grass growing very quickly, something flowing across the screen like stars, like the just like quick super like 1/10 of a second like montages and like the constantly flashing light, like that was obviously like used in the movie, like in the sense of the lights and the sound of like trying to channel whatever this earth was trying to talk, but also it was used like stylistically in those sequences. Just like, what did you like that? Did you think that that was helping to accomplish the goal of like the storytelling, or was that something? Because like for me, I'm like, okay, yes, a couple times, but then it's like it kept doing it, and I was like, is this what is this accomplishing for me here?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty effective. Like, it definitely was disorienting, and kind of like it put you right in the shoes of the character. And I feel, you know, if it can do that, then I feel like I think it's doing its job, and I can't really ding it at that point, if that makes sense. But I could see it growing tiresome or something like that, or feeling like what's the point really?
Do you feel like you understood this movie? Like walking out of the theater, do you feel like you have a good grasp on what?
Yeah, well, because the ending,
what it
is
meant,
abrupt.
what the ending was. Yeah,
the ending is abrupt, and it is yeah, I don't know if I would say I understood it, because I will say one of the negatives I'll add to this is that I haven't been thinking about the movie very much since I saw it.
right. It didn't really stick with me, but
no, it didn't, and that's why it's not a great movie. But
I'm waiting for a couple YouTube how it ended explanation videos to maybe check out, because there's it's like I said, it's very weird and like indirect, so I'm curious to kind of like either hear an interview or watch a video or do something to try and hopefully have like a more concrete grasp of what happened.
Right. And I feel like I'm not really looking, maybe I'm not necessarily looking for a more concrete grasp on what happened, but it definitely leaves it open to interpretation and like understanding what exactly is going on, like what happens at the end with the characters. I don't know. I guess one of the things I do want to mention this real quick, it's not even necessarily related, but Laura Torshia's character, Alma, she like I may not have loved this movie or thought it was great, but I genuinely think Alma became like one of my favorite all-time, like if you want to call it horror, like horror characters, because she is like, not only because her relationship with Joel Fry's character is like, it's 100% like platonic, professional, like there's nothing there, but they have like a genuine like camaraderie that grows between them, because at first it is very like, it's not like a stalemate necessarily, because it's not like they're like competing against each other, but it's kind of awkward, and she's kind of like, having to deal with his weird like tics and like whatever is going on between him and the doctor who he had like a relationship with previously and all this other stuff. But seeing that relationship grow, I thought was great, especially when they're at the stone at the end, because it's like they felt like they were kind of at odds for a while, and then they come around, and she's actually like committed to like waiting there with him, and they're like enjoying each other's company and all that, and they actually really like care. But she was so great. She was so smart and capable and like not stupid. Like the character was not stupid, which was great. And Joel Fry's character wasn't really stupid. Didn't strike me as stupid either, but he was more like gullible, or like willing to let himself believe certain things because of his relationship, like with the.
And he was also she was very much just like she is in Midsummer. She's like, this is weird, let's get out of here.
Yes.
Not where he's like, wait, let's stick around. Like,
exactly.
We have to figure this. Like, no, get out of there.
Yeah. So she was super smart, super capable. She was badass. Like, she was taking people out. So yeah, she was great. Loved her character, loved her seeing her again, because it has been like a couple of years since Midsummer came out, obviously. But yeah, I thought the ending, because it ends with, I don't think they die. Like neither of them are dead at the end. It doesn't seem. I think it's kind of alluded to that she's been like possessed to some extent, because her voice is like modulated. And
that it is like whatever was trying to talk from in the earth has like
it's now talking through her, essentially.
Right.
So it's not like it's definitely doesn't seem like a happy ending. It does kind of give vibes of like the Blair Witch Project, where you have this small cluster of people, and then they all kind of go out, together. One of them might be possessed, and the other one gets killed, something to that effect. But yeah, I think maybe the ending isn't as ambiguous or as strange or like as much reading into it as it seems. I mean, it's more just the way it's presented, perhaps. But I wasn't when it cuts to black and the credits rolled, I wasn't like disappointed or anything or underwhelmed necessarily. It was almost like I was kind of expecting it to go that route, but it was kind of a surprise though, that I was like, okay, so it's over. But
yeah, I'm not necessarily like dying to learn more about this because I'm passionate about it. I was just curious, like if there was a video explaining the ending, I would watch it. Right. I'm probably I'm another week removed from watching this, like it's probably gonna disappear from my mind forever, and I'm not gonna care anymore. But 62 out of 100 for me. Any final thoughts here before we break down some Oscars, Johnny?
No, man. I would recommend it. I would. I think it's worth a watch, especially if you can see it in a theater. With the sound in this movie is fantastic. It was edited very well, mixed very well. And the visual, I did
think it was cool how it was like, I don't know if it's cool, but just like interesting. It wasn't the movie. It wasn't like the theater that gave like a seizure warning, but it was like literally like the very first part of the movie.
Yeah, no, that definitely struck me, and I did want to mention that because I thought it was kind of funny in a way, but it was also good
because it's like in the font that says like in the earth
font of the movie. Yeah. But yeah, definitely if you're photosensitive or epileptic or anything like that, definitely skip this one. But if you're not, and because just you're not going to want to waste your money, or you're put your health at risk for this, obviously. But it's worth a watch, I think. Otherwise, so give it a look. Might love it, might hate it, might fall more in the middle, but it's different if nothing else, and I think that's worth rewarding at this point.
Definitely, I will say, regardless of the movie, great to be back at the theater. I had to do it big. I got a popcorn, a big drink, some Sour Patch Kids. We were going all out because I had like $10 of AMC Stubs rewards that I had to use since I had not gone in a year. But the Stubs is back in action. So come next week, Mortal Kombat on the big screen. Let's do it. Let's get this thing rolling. Yeah. But the big thing, bigger than Mortal Kombat next week, is the Oscars. And we haven't done too much talking. We've obviously reviewed some of the movies on here, but we haven't done too much talking about, the discourse, what's leading, what's coming, what we think is going to be a dark horse or anything. But we're not going to go through it all. But with it being 1 week out, we wanted to get something on the record as far as predictions go. We will have a prediction sheet that you can fill out as well on social coming later this week, so you can follow along on the big night. But today we're doing the main categories: Best Picture, Best Director, and then the 4 acting categories. So Johnny and I will give a little discussion, more so just make our predictions and why we think that that's the case. But let's get it started. Best Picture, Johnny, who is taking home the big one?
We're working from the top to the bottom, huh?
Well, up to you. Let's see. What do you want? You want to go actor first and then finish with the big one?
Yeah, I feel like you got to.
Yeah. All right, let's rearrange here. Best act. So if we're going from the bottom, should we start with supporting actors?
Yeah.
All right, best supporting actor. It's a lock. Game over. Curtains.
Yeah.
Chadwick damn.
Oh.
It's not. He's also nominated here. I was looking at the wrong thing on the Google Doc. Best supporting actor. It's over. Curtains. Daniel Kaluuya, Judas and the Black Messiah, for his portrayal of Fred Hampton. I mean,
yeah. No, I'm in full agreement. Daniel Kaluuya, He's been sweeping all the major awards, and he'd be my vote as well. He's incredibly deserving, fantastic performer, and this is the best one out of all of them this year. So got to give it to him. A special shout out though to Paul Rossi for Sound of Metal, who was fantastic in a legitimate small supporting male.
Right, like Daniel Kaluuya could very well have gone lead. I feel him or Lakeith, who's also nominated.
Shouts to him as well.
Yeah, Leslie Odom Jr. and Sacha Baron Cohen rounding out the nominees for One Night in Miami and Trial of Chicago 7.
Sir.
So I think it's got to be Kaluuya.
Yeah.
He like you said, he's swept. He's the one.
He
Actress in a leading role. We've got Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Andrew Day for The United States versus Billie
what about
Holiday.
supporting actress?
Man, I'm all fucked up.
You got too many tabs open, ladies.
No, I'm pulled up on. I went from our Google Doc to the Oscars website, and now it was going from supporting actor to actress in a leading role versus saying supporting next to each other. So I'm all screwed up. I'll let you take the lead, Johnny. Just take us home. I'll just sit out the rest of the podcast.
Best supporting actress, Zach. You have to. I do have to say you have to say your own choice for this, man.
Okay, I'll just text it to you and you can read it. Well, the nominees first. Let's lay it out.
Yeah,
because I didn't do that for the last one. Maria Bakalova for Borat's subsequent movie film, delivery of prodigious bribe to American regime for make benefit of once glorious nation of Kazakhstan.
Beautiful.
Got to put the full respect on its name. Glenn Close for Hillbilly Elegy, Olivia Colman, The Father, Amanda Seyfried for Mank, and Yoo Jung-yoon for Minari. Am I first or you? Or are we on the same page here?
Let it out.
I was split on this one. I think it could be Bakalova for Borat, but if I got to pick and who I think it might be, Yoo Jung-yoon for Minari. She's the grandmother in that film, and her and Alan Kim really just bring that to life. Obviously, Stephen Yeun is the main character and he's nominated for Best Actor, but the grandmother grandson relationship and just how that grows is really the heart of that movie. So I hope that she gets rewarded.
Yeah. Yoon, she's she's excellent. And she has one pretty big precursors, especially SAG. I thought that was a great win. She had a great speech. So of course, I think once you are, when you have those moments as well during the award season, they can bring attention to it. People like that and they respect it. I think that gets you more votes, of course, and I think she would be a deserving winner. And I'm gonna go with her. Bakalova was definitely giving her a run for her money there for a while, just because she did keep popping up. But I think that is it's Yoon's time, so I'm rolling with her.
All right, let me see if I can get this right. Do we want to go actor or actress?
Let's go actor.
Okay, Best Actor. The nominees are Riz Ahmed, Sound of Metal, Chadwick Boseman, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Anthony Hopkins, The Father, Gary Oldman, Mank, and Stephen Yeun, Minari. What are your thoughts here?
Oh, man. It's brutal.
This one it's got a very serious, I don't want to say asterisk next to it, but with Chadwick Boseman and his passing, from the get-go, I feel like it was a done deal. He has an incredible performance. There's no denying that. But the movie as a whole of Ma Rainey is not as good as some of the other movies here.
Yeah, that's fair.
But his performance it doesn't take anything away from his performance. And obviously with his passing, that's put him at the forefront of most people's minds, most voters and viewers' minds. So I know the big contender against him is Anthony Hopkins for The Father. Again, I haven't seen that yet, so I can't comment, but
so good. Okay.
I know that's your boy.
This is so tough. Because it really did seem like a done deal, as you were mentioning. Then Hopkins won the BAFTA, and it's just kind of what's going on in that category? But I will say,
who's calling in to tell you the answer?
God damn it! I actually have no idea. It's a number from Fayetteville. I'm not going to decline it because I have no idea who it is. So
it's Anthony Hopkins. He's calling
Anthony
you.
Hopkins is calling in. He's saying, "Hey, buddy, don't shaft me on this, or I'm gonna literally burn your house down."
Man,
It's a long
the
one.
suspense. This person is not giving up.
All right. Apologize for that. Rolling in though, after that brief detour, I will say that I think I'm gonna stick with you, because no matter how good some of these other choices
Which
are,
is Chadwick, correct?
yes, including Anthony Hopkins, and Anthony Hopkins has been getting some momentum, and it is, I mean, it's a big vote. I mean, a lot of people vote on this, and we have seen crazy things happen in the past where it seemed like something was a done deal. Most notable, I would say, Lady Gaga and Glenn Close, and then Olivia Colman comes out of freaking nowhere, it seems like, to win. But yeah, I think it's just the narrative, the performance, it's just too strong a combination. And the Oscars love, I mean, you don't see a ton of posthumous winners. I mean, Heath Ledger is the first one that comes to mind, and he won, of course. I think they're going to go with him. I think it is going to be Chadwick in the end.
I'm with you. I think I wish, honestly, if we could swap these.
If he was alive, would be my main thing to say.
Yeah, obviously. But I love the movie Da 5 Bloods way more than Ma Rainey. Right. Obviously, he has a more central, bigger performance in Ma Rainey.
Yes, he does.
But if we could have had Kaluuya as the lead and then put Chadwick as supporting actor for Da 5 Bloods so that he could still get his flowers, right, that would be my ideal situation. But like you said, the ideal situation is that he's still alive.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Best actress. Ooh. The nominees are. This is a toss up here, I feel like.
Yeah, it is.
This is the most uncertain.
This is the biggest question mark, I think.
Definitely. Viola Davis, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Andra Day, The United States vs. Billie Holiday. Vanessa Kirby, Pieces of a Woman. Frances McDormand, Nomadland. And Carey Mulligan, Promising Young Woman.
Oh, I'm going with Carey Mulligan.
As am I. That's my favorite as well out of all these. I know you're a ride or die for Vanessa Kirby, but I think she's just
happy birthday, Vanessa Kirby, by the way.
What a coincidence.
She's listening.
But I think she probably is, unless that British accent scared her away.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
But unfortunately, I feel like she's just it's an honor to be here.
Right. It does seem that way.
Her performance is excellent. There's no denying that. The movie didn't really get as much traction as most people probably had hoped. I have not even seen. I feel like Andra Day is the random pick here. I haven't seen United States vs. Billie Holiday on Hulu, but
I think a big part of me going with Mulligan here, because while the other ones certainly have good arguments, especially McDormand and Viola Davis from Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, I think are the strongest ones. Promising Young Woman just has such a strong campaign right now.
Right, it could win Best Actress, and it could win. Is it original screenplay? And that's like.
That seems like
many people are saying that it could be the perfect storm to lead to an upset in Best Picture. No. We don't know.
Many people's.
If those two happen, though, then the odds go through the roof. It's not like a lock, but it's way more likely.
Yeah, I think. But I will say, regardless of all that, I think that alone would be worth mentioning for why Mulligan could be the winner here. But I think even outside that, she's been around a while. She's always given great performances. She's never gotten a win. And I think it just makes sense. I mean, all the things are aligning, I think, despite how messy this category has been all season. Every single major award show has been a different winner. I do think it's going to come back around at the right time, and Promising Young Woman and Carey Mulligan will take that one home.
Yeah, that was, like I said, that was my favorite movie of last year, my favorite performance. So I am all on board the Carey Mulligan train. Then we have Best Director. This one seems to be a done deal from what I have seen so far and what I expect. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we've got Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round, David Fincher, Mank, Lee Isaac Chung, Minari, Chloe Zhao, Nomadland, and Emerald Fennell, Promising Young Woman. I'm going with Chloe. I'm going Nomadland.
Yeah,
I think that's the lock of the locks for these categories.
Yeah, Zhao. Yeah, she's it's a no-brainer. I mean, there's really nothing else to say about it at this point. She has the biggest sweep of any director in the history of like film award seasons. Yeah, it just it's the right place, right time. And she did a fantastic job directing Nomadland from her own, her adapted screenplay of that novel, and she'll probably end up taking home that Oscar too for the screenplay. So I think she's going to win a couple awards at minimum on Oscar night,
including potentially the big one, Best Picture. 8 nominees. We've got The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. I wish that this was going to be Judas. I think it will be Nomadland, and Minari could be my dark horse, but I'm going with Nomadland.
Yeah, no, that's very solid choice, of course. Nomadland has seemingly been sweeping as well, similarly to Zhao in the director category. I also would have voted for Judas and the Black Messiah because I think by a hair that's still the one I prefer. I do need to see Nomadland again, but it's a fantastic movie. It's been fantastic ever since I saw it in October. I've been speaking highly of it the entire time. I wrote a review on it for the site, which you can go check out. So yeah, I think it'd be a good winner for sure. And it's a very, very good field as well. Not even just in this category because it's a good category overall, but just all the films that came out. There's a lot of good ones. So
as long as it's not Mank, I'm good.
As long as it's not Mank or Trial of Chicago 7, I'll just throw that out there.
I'm good with that. You're not, but
there would be absolute hell to pay if that happened. But it's still, you can't write it off. And it's interesting to note too. This is going to be hopefully the last time ever that they have a shifting number of nominees in this category. It's going to be 10 starting next year, like a locked 10. So it'll be nice to see more films get recognized and get nominated for Best Picture, and definitely makes predicting a little bit easier as well, I would imagine. So yeah, great group all around. I'm excited for the show. It's always a fun time. It's going to be different this year, of course, with COVID protocols and everything, but still fun to celebrate the movies.
Definitely. And that wraps it up. That's the episode. Great time talking through Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We've got a lot to expect next week in that finale. We had some really good news to talk about. In the Earth, check it out. We both recommend it, but now you kind of have a better idea of what to expect, what you're going into there. And then of course, Oscars next week. So we've got a lot riding on this next week, but thank you all for listening, for tuning in, bearing with my Freudian slips and Johnny's British accent. We really appreciate you sticking with us through all that.
Absolutely. Couldn't do it without you. Love coming on the pod every week and connecting with people and just talking about the news, talking about the movies, because that's what we're here for. Follow us to keep up with giveaways, with polls, with great memes supplied by Zach on Twitter, Instagram,
and Johnny. It's a meme team.
It's a meme team. Like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, where you can find all of the podcast episodes, and you can find these accounts at Inside Film Room.
And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon, Google, iHeartRadio. That's a new one. We just got on there for all you iHeart heads out there. But give us a 5-star rating so that we can climb those charts. And come back next week. Mortal Kombat, the newest of the HBO Max Warner Brothers simultaneous releases. And we're also going to try and delay our recording so we can have that Oscars recap in there as well. So a lot to talk about. We'll be here. Hope you are too. We'll see you next time.